Right, our top story at this hour. 5 Economic Freedom Fighter MPLs have been removed from the Eastern Cape State Legislature ahead of the State of the Province address. Chaos erupted at the Abbotsford Christian Centre in East London right before Premier Oscar Mabuyane addressed the province. The EFF MPLs disrupted the proceedings as Mabuyane started his speech. They rose on a point of order, which was not granted, which was then prompted the EFF members to approach the podium. Now, Eastern Cape Legislature Speaker Helen Sauls-August then instructed the security personnel to remove the members from the event. This resulted in a scuffle between the EFF members and the security personnel. The Premier then proceeded with his address shortly after. SABC News reporter Abongile Jantjies now joins us live from East London for a reaction to the Eastern Cape SOPA. Abongile, good afternoon. Perhaps you could walk us through really what transpired today and what the implications have been thus far.
Well, a very good afternoon to you too, Lizzle. Well, before the Premier of the province, Oscar Mabuyane, could deliver his State of the Province address, there was some disruption, as you mentioned. The members of the EFF, 6 of them in total in the legislature, were trying to get hold of were trying to get the attention of the Speaker to tell them that there are students protesting outside of the venue where the sitting was held. They needed the attention of the provincial government, since they are still facing challenges where the National Financial Aid Scheme haven't paid, and now some of them do not have accommodation. You'd recall that East London is a place where there are many higher education institutions. So that's where they gathered outside, and the EFF was saying this is an emergency. They just want the attention of the provincial government, and then the Premier could deliver his address, but that was not to be, and it led to chaos, and we saw them being scuffled out of the precinct, and that's what happened, Lizzle. And we saw some of them being injured, some of them sustained some injuries, and one had to be called an ambulance, an MPL by the name of Zoleka, her surname just slipped my mind. Kotoi, that's her surname, and that's what they are saying. And they are saying that they'll continue fighting for the rights of those young children, those young minds who would be leaders like these leaders who were at this gathering today. But to get more from opposition parties on what transpired today, I'm now joined by the DA's Yusuf Kasim, who is an MPL at the legislature. Sir, before the Premier could speak today, there was some disruptions, and seemingly it's been happening. It's not the first time that chaos erupted involving EFF members, and now that the Premier has finally delivered his final State of the Province address for the 6th administration, the Ethics Committee, is it doing enough to ensure that you are safe in Parliament?
So I think it's quite interesting. The EFF members never attend any committee meetings in the legislature. They don't attend any plenary sittings where the cameras are not there. And whilst all of us are fighting, in fact the DA's MP Chantal King has been fighting to ensure that NSFAS delivers for our students. This is a national competency, it's not a provincial competency. And beyond that, the EFF is in coalition with the ANC in Nelson Mandela Bay. So they put the ANC into power, and therefore, we find these kinds of stunts are not helpful to our democracy, and of course we feel safe. These were done for your benefit, for the cameras. It was not done for our students that are suffering because of the failure of government, the same type of government that the ANC puts into government in, for example, Nelson Mandela Bay.
Let's come to the State of the Province address. Around nearly 50 pages of what the Premier said. What are your take? How do you rate it?
So the Premier did an interesting bout of gymnastics, trying to dance around the previous promises that he has made and not kept. Now, we welcome certain aspects. For example, the Premier recognized the impact of the automotive industry on job creation in the province. But on the other hand, our ports are inefficient. The port of Mocha, as an example, is one of the most inefficient ports in the world. Our road network is dilapidated, and Premier Mabuyane has only invested 800 million rand into our roads, where we require at least 4 times that in order to maintain our road network. Some of the other promises that the Premier has underwhelmed in his term of office First one, unemployment. Now, we saw the quarterly labour force statistics that were released yesterday. We have the highest unemployment rate in the country. And in fact, whilst the Premier promised to halve unemployment during his term, it's increased by 4.3% since he took office. And that is not a good story to tell. This is a story that requires rescuing the government so that we can rescue the economy of our province. Another example of a promise made by Premier Mabuyane is to build over 52,000 houses during his term of office. He's built less than half of that, whilst many of our people are without shelter in communities.
Thanks a lot for your time. Yusuf Kasim, the DA from the DA. Let's bring in the ATM's Zama Njona. Zama, thanks a lot for your time. Your reaction?
Well, starting with what transpired earlier, it's very unfortunate that this particular province does not want to learn. The state of the province address is continually overshadowed by what always transpired between the EFF and the speaker, and they never learn. And right now, if you listen just before the EFF raised a point of order, the speaker says no one would be accepted during the delivery of the speech. And the EFF raises a hand before the delivery of the speech. And the speaker chooses to collapse all rules and decide that without even citing them, without even calling them by names, without even giving them warnings, and she decides that I'm just going to check them out. Now,
even though she has released a statement condemning the incident, she was wrong at the first place, according to you.
Yes, according to us, she was wrong because she just gave a rule. And that ruling was that rule that she read said during the delivery of the speech there shall be no interruption of the Premier. Before she could call the Premier, a hand was raised. Completely ignores it. Now, do not give us rules that you are not going to adhere to. So, from a fairness perspective, right or wrong, that's not what I'm arguing. But what I'm arguing right now is that you gave us a rule and the EFF followed the rule, and when it is followed, you completely collapse the rules.
Let's come to the speech of the Premier. As the ATM, what are you saying?
Thank you so much. The Premier had an opportunity to package the province of the Eastern Cape nicely with the problems that we have as far as job creation is concerned. You could see that he had an opportunity to say to investors, this is the province of choice. He could have said, we have created a conducive environment wherein if you come to us, there are certain packages that we have packaged for the province of the Eastern Cape to deal with the challenges that we have at hand. Unfortunately, missed a golden opportunity because he knows that in the 5 years he was not to create such. So he was not about to sell that lie today because he knew that it was not going to fly. Young people who are over the age of 35, as I was coming here, said to me, listen to what he is going to say that will speak to our plight. Unfortunately, because he has not packaged the province well, investors are not going to come to the province, and because they are not going to come to the province, the death sentence that has been given, 25-year life sentence that has been given to walking bodies is not going to be lifted.
Out of 10?
Out of 10, because he also missed the issue of education. 50% of those who have made it in education, they have not actually, who started with those in matric right now, have fallen by the wayside. He did not I'll give him at 50%.
Thanks a lot for your time. Zaman Njona, ATM spokesperson there, Lizzle, sharing his views on the incidents that happened today and that most important speech of the Premier Oscar Mabuyane. Is saying that 50% is what he gives him. So now we'll see whether what he has promised, which include more houses being built, more infrastructure. He even said that they have spent 60 billion rand throughout this term or throughout the sixth administration in refurbishing roads, but opposition parties are not impressed.